Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Trainer Feed. We're going to be having another guest shortly, Brendan Kelley. But before we get started with that, let's just see how everyone's doing. Angel, how's it going?
Pretty good. I'm doing pretty well. Week was good, productive, and I'm good to go. How about Bravo? What's up?
Good, man. Everything's good. Chilling. Had a good workout. I'm still catching my breath. I'm dying. But other than that, I'm good. Good week.
Cool.
How about you, Jax?
Doing good. Same as last week, trying to keep some things going. I'm actually doing a small internship right now for this company that is specializing in neuroscience and neuro performance. So it's actually really interesting, learning a lot of stuff of that, doing some stuff online. So that's been keeping me busy, and then trying to work out the same. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Without further ado, we're going to talk to you, bring you our guest in. So Brendan is a personal trainer that used to work with us in New York City at West 76th Street. And he has opened his own studio in Somerville, Massachusetts. And we're excited to bring you on. What's up, Brendan?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
What up?
Good.
Happy to be
Yeah,
here.
yo, bring it down. We'll see, almost blow my eardrum out.
Yo, what's up, David?
Oh, man, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
I was telling
How's,
everybody,
how's-
and I was saying how you were in the lobby like 10 minutes before everybody else got here. I was like, yo, you guys, you better step it up because Brendan's ready.
I'm a prepared man. You know what I mean? Got like 100 push-ups. Got a Pedialyte in the Dunkin' Donuts cup.
Nice, man.
Staying hydrated. So what's new with you guys? How's quarantine treating all of you?
Quarantine's good. It's a whole other game now. See that we're not in the clubs and everything, and these guys are in the city. I went to the outskirts of my girlfriend's family, and
He's in New
just
Jersey.
trying to keep some kind of routine ready.
Oh, you're in New Jersey?
He was embarrassed. He was embarraed to say it. That's why he was
I was like,
outskirts.
I'm on the outskirts, an undisclosed location.
People
No,
thought
no,
I
he's
moved
in
out. I'm like,
Jersey.
"Oh, it's
He's
just
in Jersey.
Yeah, I'm in Jersey with the girlfriend's parents, family, everything. It's good. There's space to work out. They have cardio equipment. It's good. It's our mom makes sick food, so it's all good. You know, compared to my trash cooking, it's always an upgrade. Arepas, frijoles, carne asada,
All right, okay. All right.
I don't know why
pollo.
he speaks Spanish like that. It's weird.
Royce
Brendan,
Pollo.
Brendan, how's your quarantine going?
It's been good. I mean, having the studio, I can't train anyone there, but I can obviously still work out there myself. So my life hasn't changed much. You know, just kind of go wake up, eat really healthily, go to the gym, work out, do my online sessions, and then come home, play Call of Duty till who knows when, and then
Damn right.
Yeah.
run it right back, right?
All right, cool.
Nice.
So, yeah, we'll start off with a couple of the questions that we kind of wanted to ask you. It's a pleasure to have you here. Honestly, thank you for your time and thank you for coming through. One of our first questions is, what and how did your interest in becoming a personal trainer or jumping into the personal training industry, how did that kind of come about?
It's actually funny. I thought this was the hardest question to answer because it's like such a long journey. But I think it started, I mean, obviously I've always been big into physical fitness, athletics since I was young. And then I transitioned into bodybuilding, but like to me, that's still like a very selfish fitness path. There's like, how in shape am I? How in shape can I get? Like, not bodybuilding in general, but what I was doing, it was like, how athletic can I get? How in shape can I get? And then what made the transition for me to want to train other people was probably just at the gym. Once I started to get like really in shape, I'd have different people come up and ask for advice. And then a couple of times I really took the time and like, you know, programmed out for them, which back then was probably terrible program. Drop set everything till you can't move.
Failure, you'll be fine.
But, you know, as I say, everything works. So, like, they would get some results, like, you know, some level of result. And then you kind of see that confidence instilled in the person. And then you're like, wow, you know, you can kind of help people build their own confidence up by learning that they can do this the same as you can do this. Especially I found people that might not have spent their entire life in athletics or entire life in fitness. So just being like that bridge to kind of show people like this isn't a scary world that we live in. If you lift weights, you're not going to accidentally look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, you know, so like that kind of just changing that whole narrative and helping people kind of empower themselves is like a very addictive feeling for us as coaches, as you guys know. So once I got a taste of that, I was hooked, and then you can't really stop.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. That's a pretty good way of kind of like thinking about it, like going overall. So that was a great kind of like answer to that. And I think we all have our own stories like similar to that. Kind of like weird trajectories. I know last week we were speaking with Georgine and how she had a path about like nursing, and like she tried to lift somebody up and she hurt her back and she was like, oh no, this isn't it. And then it's like something like it develops into
broke her back.
Yeah, I mean sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool. So next question was, how has your experience as a personal trainer? I know we were talking about a little bit how we work together in a big box gym. We worked at Equinox. How has that impacted your business as an independent gym owner?
Drastically. I don't think I would be able to do what I do now if I hadn't worked at Equinox. For me, it was kind of like Equinox taught me a lot of pillars of the fitness industry, like specifically with generating leads and sales and how to like professionally set everything up until your sale to make you like make sure your client thinks that you're giving them a very legitimate product. And basically once I finished all the onboarding at Equinox, the reason like what slowly started going through my brain was like, okay, like I kind of understand how this works now. Why am I giving them a piece of my money? Not to discredit Equinox, it was an amazing place and it taught me so much. But once I finished all the learning, I was kind of like, all right, like, thank you for all these skills. I can now go use these to benefit myself. And then like, yeah, so basically like everything I learned from you guys, like when we were doing all those practice, you know, Equifits practice, like first sessions, that is still very much how I structure my like business now. Like when I bring someone in, it's like I kind of do a little bit different where I do the assessment and the free session in one go, just so I don't really lose them because I'm not a big club, so they won't be coming back anyway. But just setting up like the sit down, like the type of conversation we're building, understanding people's like insecurities in moments like this, and that's all stuff I learned through Equinox. And yeah, so I kind of just took everything they had to offer and then took it for myself and was like, I'm gonna use this on my own now.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that really helped me a lot as far as understanding how to work for myself. But then after I left you guys, I started renting studio space from a guy who owned his own studio. He had 2 locations. He's opening a 3rd now. And so then when I came from you guys, I felt like I had everything as far as structurally to run my own business. But then as far as running my own studio, I kind of landed in the perfect spot where then I was able to mentor him. And then I kind of did the same thing where I was like, I'm going to end up paying you about as much money in 1 year as it would cost for me to get rent. So thank you for all the free advice, but I'm out once more.
Another one.
Yeah.
For real. No, that's awesome. And I was like, when you spoke a little bit about like how like you combine like the EquaFit and like, or like a fitness assessment or whatever, and like your complimentary session, you put those 2 together because you're an independent studio, right? So the difference between like a big box is like you might see them again in the gym or something like that, right? Like the lead stays like warm for a while, but for you it's like hot and cold. Like when they walk in through the door, they're hot. Then after they leave, it's kind of like wherever that goes is going to go, right?
Yeah. So my whole philosophy is kind of like, if I can get you in the door, I will get you as a client. So like once I put you through like an assessment and a session, which is like, I kind of speed up the assessment as long as people don't have any underlying conditions. It's kind of like, okay, here you are. I'm assuming you work in an office, your hips are bad and your shoulders are internally rotated. Like we're going to be doing a lot of single leg glute bridges and glute bridges for the first. We're just going to get you back to base to start. So I can kind of accelerate the assessment. And then I start to just get them moving. And I've noticed specifically when you can like, most of my clients come from the corporate world. So I know their hips are a nightmare. So if I can open up or create a little bit of space in those hips and like fix some of that internal rotation, like even in one session with a couple of band work, like I'm a miracle worker right away. So then it's like, they're like, I can't go without this now. Because then even if they go back to work for a few days, they start to tighten back up, and then they're thinking to themselves like, I need to make a stance. So again, all stuff I learned from you guys and Equinox, but then it just I taught myself how to accelerate it. But because I won't see them again, like you said.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It's a different world. Similar, so I see like some similarities and like some huge differences too.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next one actually leads into like starting your own business. What was the hardest part of starting Brendan Kelley Fitness?
There are a couple like different. So like mentally, the hardest part was just taking the leap of faith. Like, for some reason, I think like everyone always thinks like owning your own business or running your own business, like everyone thinks you're going on Shark Tank, you're trying to pitch a Fortune 500 company. And for me, it was like, just sell one unit, like just sell one personal training package. Okay. So like when I broke it down that way, it became a lot easier, but like the stress of like, am I ready for this? Am I like, should I do this? Should I make this jump? And I'm very much a just do it kind of person. So for me, getting over that anxiety was a little bit of a hurdle. But as far as like running my business, I would say the hardest thing was generating leads at first and kind of navigating the independent marketing field. And I would say that like, I always joke now, if I was to do a floor shift tomorrow, I would talk to every single person in that gym 5 over. Like I would not accept no for an answer. Like, because when you have no inbound clients, you're just kind of, you really have to be constantly hounding like on whether it's Thumbtack or Google advertisement or Facebook advertisement, that kind of stuff. So
how did you generate? If like you said, if you do work in a corporate gym, whether the league is warm or not, and you're saying whether you get someone in the club or in your facility or not, like how do you generate leads?
So for me, it's actually been like a journey, which makes my like business growth, I think, very authentic, where it's like, I have this works, this doesn't, I spent money here, this failed, this works, this failed. So like I started off on Thumbtack, which was working kind of, I would say I would get like, I think they use fake leads. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now.
What is Thumbtack?
At me right now. I think Thumbtack's an app where you post a job or service, and then people who are requiring that job or service can then come in contact with you.
Gotcha.
And they charge you maybe like $10 a month to be listed. And I got recommended that through someone else. But then I started getting a lot of ghost leads. So I thought they were fake, where it'd be like, hey, like these long
bots.
Yeah, like I thought they were bots. But then I did get a couple clients off of that. But then I kind of was getting unsatisfied with how many I was getting. So I switched over to Facebook advertising. And I'll give away one of my secrets. I started really going after like niche groups in Facebook, like residence groups of towns or like different things like that, where the smaller numbers of people, so the post volume wouldn't be as big. So that way more people would actually see it, versus if I posted in a massive group and it just gets flushed away.
We'll mute this out. Don't worry. Secret. Beat it out.
And then lastly, once I started making a little more money, I transitioned to Google ads, because I had enough reviews. I had 40 or 30 5-star reviews, something like that. So then I started feeling confident enough in my Google business page. And then when you can pay money to have your Google ad posted, specifically people within a certain mile radius of your gym, age demographics, that kind of stuff. So that will automatically go to them. And I've noticed that is probably the most successful way to advertise, but at the same time, it's also the most expensive. So it's kind of a trade-off there.
Trade-off. Good to know.
Yeah.
One quick question for somebody that's looking to start their own business. How long would you say after you left Equinox and started your own fitness, venture? How long did it take you to actually make a profit?
Well, at first it was all profit, because I didn't have my own studio. I was just kind of bouncing around to different apartment buildings with gyms, and then renting a small studio space for really, $15 on the session that I'm charging $80 for. So it's still, and I was living at home, I didn't have rent. I moved back and then what happened for my studio, how long did it take to make a profit? Probably a lot longer, because when I first moved to my studio, I lost, I'd say 20% of my clientele just from location. My studio, Boston's very small, but
where are you at again? Somerville?
I'm in Somerville. So Boston.
I was there. I mean, it's you don't have, I was there, last year, but the area there is very collegey, right?
It's very collegey. It's very also like young professionally, because Somerville's kind of like 2-family homes is kind of their big demographic, with like, you know, postgraduate people like kind of living there and then driving in to and from the city. So for me, when I transitioned, I lost a good amount of clients, like just from location, because I went from renting a space in downtown Boston to being just outside in Somerville. So some of my clients who didn't have cars weren't able to, you know, make that transition. So that was kind of a hit. And then the overhead being like, you know, rent or equipment was all like a flat fixed, you know, rate that I knew was coming. The equipment I all paid for up front. So I just kind of put myself in the hole that way. And then once I had the studio and I was able to like, I think it came out great. We did all the construction ourselves. That also, I think, really generated me a huge influx of clients, like just getting those pictures out there in my advertisements as well. So it was actually kind of a pretty quick turnaround rate. So I will say I got pretty lucky. But the most important thing was, for a while, I was building a book of clients without a studio. So when I made the transition, I still had plenty of people ready to
go. Cool, man.
Yeah. At least I know. So for those of you guys listening, that I actually mentored Brendan for a little bit at West 76th Street. I don't know how long it was, but definitely one of the easier people to work with that I mentored. I will say that. Because of how enthusiastic you were about like building your business, coming off the floor, just earning and grinding. But something that you mentioned frequently when we worked together was you worked under the Mike Boyle methodology, correct? In Boston?
So yeah, I actually am a certified functional strength coach under Mike Boyle. And like I grew up in the town where his gym is. So a lot of athletes, a lot of my friends, a lot of my athletes growing up all trained there as kids. So like, to me, you know, the whole foam roll dynamic warm up, Olympic lifts into like, you know, function stability type like model they follow is, you know, that's how you train if you're an athlete. Like that's like, you know, what we're used to. All my friends are like same thing. Like I couldn't imagine not doing that especially if you're going for athletics. So when I went and then I trained under them with the certified functional strength coach, then I was able to kind of learn their specific, like, you know, methodologies and like, you know, why they do certain things in their programming. So I think Angel, you went to it as well. And Josh, right?
I don't think I went to, we saw Mike Boyle at like a Perform Better Summit, but I didn't go to the thing.
It was a Perform Better Summit in Long Beach, California. And they're there the whole 3 days, and you get there's one evening you get to shoot the shit with them, and like it's fun. It's so funny the story you're telling us about your studio, because when talking to him, when talking about progressing or reaching different heights, he said you got to take that chance. That was if there was one thing that I recall from the conversation I had with him was like, you got to take that chance, right? My boy was saying this, and he's like, and like it's funny because he does mention the story about how he started off working for the Red Sox very, very early on, but he was also making money across the street in a bar, right across from
Fenway Park,
from the stadium. And he mentions, he goes like, 15, 20 years later, I'm now part of the strength team winning the World Series with them, you know? And it's like, he said it's just a very odd story. And we mentioned on our last podcast how what he's doing now, like he's in his 60s, right? Roughly, something like that. So it's not common that people in the strength and conditioning industry are still making a career of it that late on, right? Like there are studies that show that most people kind of get out of the industry or have been for most parts like in their late 20s, and he's showing that it can be done. But I've actually listened to a lot of like sport podcasts, and his name so often is coming up with like the Bruins from like 15, 20 years ago. And it's like every guy who came into the Bruins team at some point, Mike Boyle. So like, I think he definitely leaves his footprint on everything. So I think it's awesome you got to like walk under for him.
Yeah, so like I was able to learn directly under him. I never worked for him though, so I was going to say that. My closest person I know is like Stephen Bigelow's like really educates. He travels the world and teaches the whole CFSC. I grew up with him, so he was able to. He was at the whole seminar I was at as well, and he helped me out as well a lot. So shout out to him. But I would say the one thing is if you've ever been to his facility, it has like this. There's, you know, every professional jersey of every athlete that's ever trained.
Every sign.
It's, you know, and to me, the craziest thing was I feel like everyone always thinks with sports science, it's like, oh, there's like, he just follows such basic principles to everybody. And it's like, let's not overcomplicate this. It's just time in, time out. Like, he's very much like no nonsense. Like if it's scientifically proven to work, we'll use it. If it gets disproven, like, all right, we'll throw it away. Like,
so like that's good though. Right?
Yeah. So that's kind of like their mindset over there. It's really cool.
No, that's good. I think that's, at least if it works, it's proven. But again, like as long as there's science to back it up, because so often, like we've spoken about, whether it's on social media or other platforms, and people saying, "Oh, do this or this and train it," and it's like, well, what are you basing it on? If it's like, because
you got to base it on
what's a yeah, and like if you're doing it with a client, you're doing it with someone. Like, what are you hoping the outcome will be with a person? Like, okay. Box jumps for generating power, but like if you're a 65-year-old male, like are you performing in the Olympics? Or maybe not. Like I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. Like it's risk right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
like
maybe if you're Sylvester Stallone, but probably not.
I know you kind of touched on like the difference in how you were in downtown Boston and then moving to more just outside. When you've been able to train in both New York City and Boston, and what would you say the contrasting experience and key features that stand out for you, having trained in both cities, the differences?
I mean, New York's very much more, the training culture, the health culture is much more on the like developed than it is here in Boston. I would say like we're more of an emerging market. People are definitely more open to fitness and health and glamour and that kind of stuff in New York City. I'd also say people are a little bit easier to talk to and approach in New York City. Boston kind of, I would say. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I would say Boston, especially like when you come in with like a little salesy mindset. Like you're in Equinox in New York City, like these people are kind of looking to like, money be sold.
They know you're there to sell something.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And they're there to spend money. It's kind of a little like, and get in shape. But here, I would say training and fitness is kind of just like not as established. So it's kind of like, why would I do that? I run, that's good enough. Like you get a lot of people in these like older school mindsets. So I would say that's a little bit more difficult, but I will say that the Boston like whole training scene is on the up and up. Like I'm a part of this group. We do like of all the trainers in Boston, independent trainers in Boston. And we do like FaceTime, Zoom calls together. And we're always talking about like, where that whole industry is going. And so I definitely think it's about to like have its, its day, but as far as like where it is compared to where New York is, I would say in New York, I think I could sell 10 times more training.
Wow. 10 times more rent.
Yeah, but that's exactly.
It goes about saying the rent is, because if you have your own place, like when I've spoken to a client of mine who's in real estate, and he told me like these private studios in the city, how much they go for. I think they go between like 18 and 20,000 a month.
Yeah, so that's definitely a no for me, dog.
That's crazy. I mean, with like you said, I think in New York, because of the rent, right? You have these two types of training methods. You have the commercial gym, and then you have CrossFit. I mean, CrossFit boxes, I think, are the only ones that are able to, I think, successfully stay open. Not during quarantine. Who knows what's happening there? But I think in normal times, a CrossFit box is charging you what, $250, $300 a month. Sometimes more. And then like you get all these people that go to the classes, they're making bank. So for having a small studio gym like yours, where you're teaching people, individually, and actually, in my opinion, things that matter. It's hard to have it in New York because you're either going to a commercial gym or you're going to a CrossFit box.
Yeah, it would be impossible in New York. Like it would be, unless you, like you said, unless you're ready to launch some massive like boutique studio gym, like the Dog Pound or something like that. Like unless you're.
But if you know how he started off.
That's a multi-million-dollar,
But you know how he started off, the Dog Pound?
No, I have no idea.
So I forgot his first name, but I know it's something as in he pretty much knew his brother. He himself had health problems. He went to stay with his brother in New York City, and he wanted to start training. And he would start training like $40 an hour, right? This is like 15, 20 years ago. And his brother knew the head of the New York Stock Exchange. He says, "Oh, why don't you train him?" This guy, head of the stock exchange, also knew Hugh Jackman. And that's how he got on to training those guys. Once he was training Hugh Jackman, what's up?
Did he like train him from Wolverine? Was that like him?
I'm pretty sure the time frame of when he was training.
Too.
What's up?
Hugh Jackman was Equinox too. He was
I think he was trained at well, I believe he would train at the E Club, right? At Columbus Circle. But my understanding is Myers would train Hugh Jackman in the same time frame he was doing some of the Wolverine films. Now that's enough to say that, like, all right, you train Hugh Jackman during Wolverine. He got onto the Victoria's Secret models. Victoria's Secret would pay him how much? Now, the only reason why I read up this much is because I have a client who she moved downtown like about a year ago, and she's like, "Oh, also one of these dog pound." And I was like, "Oh, I don't mind looking up," and did the research. This guy who was charging $40 an hour, right? He first started, right? And he opened this because they wouldn't let him train Hugh Jackman anymore. Hugh Jackman could bring his dog, hence dog pound. This guy now charges, you guys know how much he charges an hour when he trains?
Like $700 or something like that, right?
Up.
Oh,
a grand.
A grand an hour.
This guy charges $1,000 an hour. And when I've read what he's done, like with a journalist who reports this and saying, like, this is what we did, it's like you said, it's not like with my boy, it's not like, it's not that what he's teaching you is necessarily new science. He's teaching you the basics, the fundamentals, but he's doing it right, and he's doing it in accordance of how he judges how you move, right? There's so much more than just giving you the sets of exercises. But I just thought I'd bring that up because he started off very small, and now he opened up in West Hollywood, right? Like, that thing is worth so much money in Hollywood. All the celebrities go there. Like, Justin Bieber's just hanging out, walking out. It's pretty inspiring. I think it's a pretty cool story, and it actually leads me on to think that. Remind us how long you've had your studio open for, Brendan?
A little more than a calendar year. So like.
So almost all right. So like, over 12 months. So where do you also a bit over a calendar year? You mentioned you kind of check back in with the trainers in the local area. Where do you see or hope your business getting to? Like 5-10 years? Like how do you see expanding?
I mean, right now before coronavirus, like quarantine happened, I was thinking about even expanding my physical location. I'm probably about 250 square feet right now. So I was going to expand that, try to get some carpet turf in my studio. Just enough for a sled, nothing crazy, like no indoor sprints, but like, and then I believe like I was going to try to up my, session rate, just increase value, like, and then, slowly start to drive up my prices. I actually love the whole dog pound model. So I, definitely follow that. Like the more quality, the more clients I get trained, the more you slowly start to bring your rate up, because the more people you continuously are able to assess on the fly and then correct those things. And I remember talking to you guys about this. Granted, as long as you don't have anyone with any like specific diagnosed issues, you know what I mean? Like our eyes are our best tools. Like I can tell right away, like, oh, you're lacking ankle mobility. I can tell right away, like, oh, your entire problem is coming from that anterior pelvic tilt. Like, you know what I mean? From like, and we're going to fix it in this multiple ways. And then once we get you there, then we can go balls to the walls and do all the fun stuff. But like for the beginning, it's like, you assess these things, and that's to me what gives you the value. Like the more you do that, and the more, so for me, when you say, where do I want to be in 5 years? It's like kind of doing what I'm doing now at a much higher level. And then also, I don't know if I thought about bringing on like another trainer, but I don't know if I could stay independent and continue to do all these things. I'd love to do that as well, because to me, a big mentor as well as dog pound for me is Ben Bruno. And I know he's one of my favorite trainers, and he has the independent studio, and his is going great. So that's definitely.
But he's in a garage, right?
Yeah, that's like
he brings his clients, trains them. He lives on a hill, on a slope, and he doesn't like sled pushes and pulls in the driveway, right?
Yeah, but that's Cali, right? Like his garage is probably nicer than my house. So
garage. Okay, my bad.
Oh, the garage.
Yeah, what the fuck is a garage?
Get out of here.
The other day, Jacques hit us with some
garage, Jacques.
Yeah, he was saying, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much land you have. I was like, land? It's like, when's the last time you heard that?
I was watching Game of Thrones.
Doesn't matter how much dowry I get.
Your land, your crops, your gold.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Fucking want blooms over here.
yeah, so where I want to be in 5 years is just probably where I am now with either a bigger space or just and doing what I do at a higher level. I will say though, I did like team training. I worked with the high school lacrosse team in Winchester, Mass, and like they won a state championship. You know, kudos to me. Just kidding.
Nice.
yeah?
No
Oh,
big
yeah.
No, they
deal.
were I had nothing to do with me.
Shit.
But so then I will say like I kind of got a little taste of also like this like group training with athletics, which is kind of what they do over at MBSC, and I was able to do that at the high school. And I'll still say I love the one-on-ones, like always been my, you know, to me that is like the thing of training, because you know when you're in that group of 15, you have to accomplish a specific goal, and in order to do that you have to let some things go, like, you know what I mean? And like, you know, the perfectionist of me, I'm like, I really want to take this kid aside and just address ankle mobility, but he's 15 years old and just wants to bench press 315. So I have to like.
And if there's 10 other ones, how do you focus in on one kid when there's 10 other ones? You know, like it's hard to. Yeah.
So like there was a while I thought that's what I wanted to do, but then like recently I kind of realized like, no, I just kind of want to build like a really solid private studio, just like, you know, Dog Pound, Ben Bruno, stuff like that. That'd be ideal.
Nice. That's dope, man. And congrats. It's not a. I remember seeing you posting the pictures when you first got the space, the painting, more equipment. Like I understand what you mean. Like it's people see the finished product and people don't know your mental state when you're just starting a space or trying to open. You're like, fuck, if this doesn't work, like have I just what, you know, should have I stay? Like there's never an easy way or a time that you know it's just right until maybe after. So I want to say kudos and congrats. I think it's awesome to be able to open your own space, and I think that's pretty phenomenal. You could say like I have my own studio, train my clients. I think that's pretty sick. So congrats, man.
Thank you, man. And also, you guys worked with me. You know me. Like, I'm pretty, like, I would say it's my ego that allows me to do these kinds of things, because I'm like, if you can do it, I can do it. If you know what I mean? Like, if that person can do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah,
and then also,
I love that.
I'm like, if I fail, I fail. Like, I'm moving.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, I've always just been reckless in that way. So it's a good way to be reckless, I guess. But it's just kind of like I see something and I'm like, all right, I can do this on my own.
That's fair. No, it's takes balls, but it's good, man.
Yeah.
Nice. What's your current niche? Like, what kind of people are you training now?
So this is another question I liked a lot when I was reviewing, when you guys sent me these last night, because niche, I don't think I have a niche. I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I will tell you what I like, don't like, what I wouldn't be comfortable training would be people with like, you know, serious, you know, like diagnosed, you know, like diseases or injuries or something like that. Like, you know, real, like any niche client I wouldn't really want. But as far as like general population, I have clients who are, you know, like above 65. I've trained kids who are young. I just find that like, I don't really like the whole niche training, because in my belief and my philosophy is like, I'm going to assess where your like leaks in your kinetic chain are. I'm going to fix those. And then we can do kind of whatever you want. Like once I have you with like a solid base, I'm pretty confident, like I won't injure you. Like we're not going to do anything absolutely reckless. Like, but if you want to do, hey, I want to power lift, like, okay, I can get you there. But first I'm going to make sure you're moving properly. We're going to be doing our split squats. We're going to open up all these things, so that way when we do go, if you do want to squat, I can help you with that. I don't recommend it, but I'll get you to that goal if that's like a thing. But I found that most people just want to get in shape. So I wouldn't really say I had a niche, because it's like, I always say, show me what kind of shape you want to get into, and then I'll program around that. But like, I think to answer your question would just be like, my niche is I just avoid niche clients. I avoid, like, if someone had like, you know, MS, I'd probably refer them out to someone else. If someone had, you know, some other type of, you know, some like situation going on like that, I would not be comfortable training.
And that's one good thing about training independently. Working at a big box gym, it's like, fuck, like you have MS, I still need to train you to make money. You know, it's like, would you consider working with the PT, with the doctor directly in order to train somebody like that? Or is that completely like out of the question?
I would probably refer out, just because I wouldn't be comfortable with it. You know, I always believe there's enough food for everybody out here. So like I have a network of trainers as well. And I know people who are more equipped than me to do that and like dedicate only to doing that. So I'd be like, why not? I'll feed them someone, and then I can stay on my path, which is doing like exactly what I know. But I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah.
I'd love to help them out if they felt that they clicked with my personality and they gave me all their PT related workouts. Yeah, we'll do anything. I mean, again, back to the whole I don't know what to call it, just confidence, or I don't know. I'd just be like, yeah, I can do it. Give me those. I'm sure I'll do it. I'll research it. I'll figure it out.
It's like me. I think, whenever I have people that come to me and say, I want to run a marathon in a month, I'm like, all right, well, I'll refer you out to somebody that actually does that. I don't run. I probably should at this point in quarantine, but it's good that you understand where it is that I think experience limits you. I think we all need to check ourselves sometimes like that.
Yeah. I also love, one thing I learned from you guys was asking other trainers for help. We used to work with that. If I had someone ask me for a marathon, I'd probably reach out to Gina, even though she probably didn't even remember who I am. I still hit her with a crazy text message hey, we used to work together. I know you're a big marathon runner. Do you have any stuff for programming? And I'd send that out to 5 or 6 different people I know who are trainers who have done marathons.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, like you said, there is food for everyone, and the biggest thing is there's information everywhere. You can get something from me, you get something from Jai, get something from me. We could all get something from you, especially if any of us ever want to open up our own studio, because you already have experience in it, Yeah. But right now, because of the shit we're in, this whole COVID-19, how has that affected your training? I know you said that you're training people online, but has it been tougher because you're not hands-on? It's been tough for me.
Absolutely. Honestly, I was very hesitant to online training at first because I'm a big believer, what are we really doing here? Am I training you?
Yeah.
I'm telling you to do push-ups and freaking air squats in your basement on a Zoom call. You know what I mean? And I'm supposed to be comfortable with you paying me for this? That was a huge problem with me because I was like,
oh, that's 100%, man. That was going through my head when this whole thing started. It's I'm so hands-on. I'm like, okay, I'm going to help you do this, help you do that it's a big, change. Angel and Jacques probably had experience in that before I did, at least. I've never trained somebody, through video, virtually.
Yeah, so what I've been kind of sticking to is most people don't have weights, so we've just been doing a lot of body weight stuff, and we just kind of stick to the pillars of movement. We're doing our knee dominant, hip dominant, just doing a lot of split squats, doing a lot of single leg deadlifts with just body weight, a lot of dead bugs, just kind of hitting whatever basics we can. My whole thing is to limit the regression of your mobility, because everyone is sitting down so much that I feel hip mobility, everyone's my back hurts, what's going on? It's you're sitting down way too much. Your hips are so tight that your lower back's now taking over. So I've just been trying to pick workouts that really combat that, because I'm are we going to get stronger? Probably not. Can we maintain? Can we maintain and still burn calories? Yes. So can we get the heart pumping? Can we get all those benefits? Yeah. So it took me a while to rationalize it though, because a part of me is what's really going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
But what about you guys? I have a couple questions myself. I was going to say, what have you guys all been combating this, and how's Equinox been helping you guys combat this as well? You guys been doing virtual sessions through Equinox, or is that,
Yeah, through Equinox, they've been emailing back and forth, and we're trying to get as many people as we can in. They're helping us out with a percentage of what we used to make, because it's tough out here. We got to eat.
Oh, absolutely.
It's good. We're very fortunate that in the company that we're still being paid. Unfortunately, people got let go, and we're very fortunate to be the ones that are still working, still earning money for them. And it's definitely been a topic we've mentioned on here in some of the previous episodes, that week on week, more people are reaching out and realizing that, like you said as well, this is, especially if you're hands-on, and if you said your best tools are your eyes, right? Which I quite firmly agree. And if your eyes, which are now the Zoom camera, are distorted because the connection be poor, it can be tricky, right? So it's definitely been a scenario where it's been harder for some people to be like, oh, I'll wait. And then the more people realize that this isn't changing for a little while, at least, and we've been shut since it's getting close to 2 months now. They're like, okay, I need to move, and this is the next best thing. It's not quite working out in the gym, but I've definitely had more. I had prior to this trained 1 or 2 clients privately via virtual training, and I was fortunate that it was someone that's like very simple, very easy to work with. Like again, some people are harder to work with than others, and she was very simple, so I got a very good taste of it prior. And it's not easy, you know. Like next thing you know, you got no Wi-Fi, and you're like, oh, I lost something. I do squats.
My least favorite is like if the video's in one location and like you're worried about their ankle mobility, which is off screen mid set, and you're like, you're like, oh.
It's hard. Like you also have like. I mean, look, like I feel bad when I'm like, all right, do you mind just moving the camera because you're doing the exercise and I just see the top of your head. That's all I see.
Yeah.
You know, and like you're doing, like I said, you're doing squats, and I have no idea how your hip is moving, how your knees, how your ankle, like your whole body. You know, so that's a challenging. But I know Angel has been doing some as well.
Yeah. Again, like just to reiterate what these guys pretty much said, like Equinox has definitely been helping us out, hooking us up, giving us a percentage of what we used to make. And then the virtual sessions that we kind of like provide, those get added on top of that. So we're very fortunate in that regard. And then like this week, I've had like some new leads, and I've never, experienced new leads virtually before. So it was kind of weird. It's like, all right, so let's do a FaceTime call before our actual like virtual training session. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's interesting because like now you're starting to ask different questions like, okay, what kind of space are we working with? What's your equipment like? Do you have any like kids that are going to come into the room like mid-set or something like that? Like what's your environment like? Because you're trying to control as many variables as possible. And obviously you don't know what the situation is, but those who are interested in it, I feel like they're down to just make it work because they kind of have the mindset of like, we don't know when this is going to end. We don't know how this is going to work. So we just need to move. So those clients are good in that regard, and they're more likely to be converted because they're just interested. But yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a game of like, all right, your foot is off screen, so let me just tell you this right now, because like if I don't say anything, like next thing you know, your ankle's gonna break off or something like that.
Yeah, like I don't know what's gonna happen next.
The anxiety starts to creep up. It's like, is that thing stable on that wall, or is that picture gonna fall off the wall and hit your head?
I have a client that if I ever do jumping jacks, her hands would touch the ceiling, and I'm like, don't break a finger now. But Brendan, is Brendan Kelley Fitness coming back to bodybuilding? Or are you going to change sports? You're going to Olympic weightlift? What's up?
I'm just a competitor. I'm down to do whatever. Lately, I took on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, I mean, I was doing that a lot, like probably 2 days a week, just like for cardio. That was getting a little hard to program for myself because I like to lift weights like 6 days a week, which is kind of, I know, crazy as far as like programming goes. But I like to lift like 6 days a week. So then I added jiu-jitsu in on two. I was doing like 1-2 a day and then 1 day of just cardio. So I had to scale back in order to do that. And I was going to compete in their Boston Open, but then obviously with coronavirus, it doesn't look like we're doing anything like that. As far as bodybuilding, no. I feel like for me, it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like, I kind of just did that just to do it. It was like another little competition thing. And it's not, I feel like I look at, AG and like, where he's at, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be a pro, so I might as well just focus on what I can, because he's on a different level these days. And I highly respect it, and I always love bodybuilding. It's like probably what made me fall in love with weightlifting to begin with. But as far as if I'm gonna get on stage again, probably not.
We'll be on stage next to AG someday.
Yeah, right. But I have a couple. I got a couple more. I was gonna say for you guys. Do you feel, I personally find that in like fitness for us, it's like you reach a level, like you always want to be self-educating, but I feel like you get to a level where you learn enough, and then it's kind of, everything after that is like, there's like a base of what we should be doing with our clients as far as like, and Equinox covers that really well. And so does the CFSC as far as like the 7 localized movements and like, not building strength on top of dysfunction. And, programming accordingly. And then I've personally found that like, there's a level of that it's like, this is how you train someone. And then it kind of ruined all other training for me, because now I look at other training, I'm like, that is wrong. That is incorrect. I don't know if you guys felt the same thing. So I was saying the more I learned about like functional training and like how this is proven to work and what you're doing is not, it kind of like, it makes it me very hard to be, to like look at other.
No, 100%. I think, you know, these guys know me in terms of how I am with programming and training and stuff. It's hard because at some point you start learning all these, you know, proven things that'll work for somebody, and that has been shown to work for a variety of people, that I guess to the point of you're not telling your clients to do whatever they want or to do this and that and this and that without a structure. And once you have a structure in place, it's hard to deviate from it for anything. So you know, like you said, on a point that you learn something, this is right, and then what you see somebody else do, it's wrong. I would admit that in the beginning, I was very much like that. It's like, what are you doing?
Same.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's fucking clown.
Now I'm a little more of like, okay, well, at least you're moving, you know? Like, I mean, at least for me, the biggest thing was CrossFit in the beginning. The early stages of CrossFit was a big, like, oh my God, like this is a lot of these things, or a lot of the, like you said right now, don't build strength over dysfunction. And you see a lot of people, you know, just lifting barbells over their head with, you know, poor form. And it's like, shit, you know, okay, I get that you want to do all this stuff. It's great. But, you know, maybe scale back a little bit. But now my mentality is, okay, well, at least we're introducing a barbell to somebody, right? It's like, okay, we're introducing this strength move for somebody that they could probably be able to master at some point, especially for women. You know, back before CrossFit happened, women would rarely ever touch a barbell unless it was to compete in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And the biggest, you know, stereotype or, you know, stigma of women lifting weights is they'll be huge and jacked and bulky. When after you see the CrossFit Games, you see a lot of these women that are actually strong, are actually very athletic, not look anything like a female Schwarzenegger, you know?
Yeah.
And that would open up a lot more avenues for women to work on strength. So I think, you know, it is tough, I think, to learn so many things and then be like, all right, well, shit, where do I go from here? You know?
I think also, like,
which is why I'm doing RKC again. Like, I did kettlebell athletics with Jason Brown, and after that, it's like, okay, well, let me relearn some of the stuff using, you know, RKC method, and I'm doing it online, and it's pretty cool.
I was gonna jump in and say that we kind of mentioned it earlier as well. Like, when you see someone do, again, like David said, I was very much the opinion where I see someone like, what the fuck is this person doing? And I was like, this fucking clown, that fucking clown. Like, when your clients be like, oh, do you spot something go wrong? I was like, you ready? And if it was the end of the day, I'd be like, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Like, going off. But like,
I think we're still like that to some extent.
You have to understand that everyone's got different goals, and like David said, like, as long as you're moving, I think that's like, the fact you're here, you're moving is a great thing. And also, like, what, even for between all four of us here, like, what optimal movement or what functional may look like. I mean, we're pretty much on the same wavelength about this, obviously, but like, four different minds can have such a different opinion of what like moving well will look like. And I think that when we see people moving, like, as long as there's a reason for them doing the movement, like, my biggest thing is whether someone tells me, oh, I did this, and I was like, oh, what are you hoping to get out of it? I don't know, I just saw it. I was like, well, it's not that you're doing it, it's wrong. It's like, well, what would you be hoping to get out of it? Like, why do you think you'd be doing it? What were you wanting to achieve? And I'm not trying to shit on someone. I'm just saying, like, no, like, I just don't want you to waste, like I said, if we mentioned bodybuilding or whatever it was, like, if you want to, again, like, when females, like, when you mentioned CrossFit, right? Like, I've never seen traps like that. Like, both males and females. Like, those traps are, like, huge.
Great.
And another thing I will say about CrossFit, like David mentioned, I've done a bit myself, and something I did, again, I heard a lot of the stigma behind it, like, damn, people are just getting broken at CrossFit. The issue with some parts of CrossFit, in my opinion, is when you go to the class, the people who can do it are good. They're fine. They can rock it. They can do RX things the regular way. But when someone can't do it and they just go, I'm gonna fucking try anyway, that's where the issue is. When someone doesn't go, oh, I should scale it back, or I should do a regress version, I'm just going to do the regular version and break my fucking back. That's where the issue is, in my opinion, when I've seen it. Like, I don't think it's the instructors. I don't think it's the people those that can do it. It's those that are still learning and starting to work, like David said, ankle mobility, that need to work on it. But again, it's like, well, are you just going to CrossFit to get sweat on, or are you going because you actually want to get better at it? Like, it depends on what the person wants to do.
No, I agree.
So
good athletes can
You
jump
know,
in.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, and I've seen people that have never done CrossFit before, like when Brian. So his wife is the one I'd go with in the city, Neo Fifth Avenue. He would occasionally just come, and he would just like power snatch something above his head, which people were like having to like really do technique. He would just like power snatch it like 185 above his head, like it was easy, right? Because he could, so it came natural to him. But again, basically, what I was going back to was like, as long as you got a purpose for something, you know. And when we mentioned as well, like on Instagram, when I see these workouts, I'm like, okay, what are you trying to achieve? Like, what is the purpose of this? You know, and whether it's my girlfriend, whether it's someone else sending me this workout or this post, I'm like, okay, cool. What are we doing this for? Oh, I don't know. It looks cool. Well, I don't know. Fuck. I don't know. Fuck. Like,
Yeah. That's the biggest problem I have is like people will bring you.
It looks cool. Like, and the sad fact is, this is how social media works, right? We're like, we could be doing like, let's for example, right? Let's say Mike Boyle, right? Mike Boyle's in his 60s. He's balding, whatever, glasses, right? He has a different look to say someone like, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger at his peak, right? Not exact comparisons, but they would self-promote very different things. Huh?
I said Jen Selter versus Mike Boyle.
Right?
Who's actually going to help you develop a better posterior chain? Mike Boyle.
Right.
Who would you ask if you were in a gym? He even says that. He goes, would you come up to me in a gym and ask me for advice?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't, right? And that's kind of how everyone knows. That's how social media works. Like Mike Boyle, who's so accomplished, who's worked with all these professional teams, who's helped them win. Like, all bar in the last 2 years, Boston has had a championship in almost every season across the 4 or 5 different sports for like 20 years, right? Yeah, we don't remind him that. But if he's worked in that culture, again, he's got that knowledge. But if he's doing a squat versus, like I said, Jen Selter is the one doing a squat, like very different reception. And again, it looks better, it sells better, but like,
Listen,
okay.
One thing that I heard, I forgot who it was that told me a long time ago. You know, anybody could do a squat, right? But when there's a shit squat, it's a shit squat. You know, like there's no two ways around it. Like you could see somebody do a squat completely fucked up, but you know, we understand with all these different, you know, lengths of your femur and tibia and all that crap. But it's like, yeah, you know, take all that into consideration, but still do a properly done squat. It'll be better. And Mike Boyle has this. If you guys follow him on Instagram, he used to make these videos about bad training exercises. They were fucking hilarious.
Yeah. No bad exercises, and then he'd start like
exactly. Then he's like talking about the leg press. He's like, why? You know, like things that it's fucking hilarious. You guys should check out.
The whole reason for me bringing this up was I was going to say one of the biggest obstacles I find as a trainer, and I was like, love to hear you guys' opinions. Like, your clients come to you with something from like a fitness expert, which you know is a person who's just in great shape, trying to sell whatever, literally like shoving product down people's throats, and you're just thinking like, I don't know how to put this on you easy, but it's like, if you're in that good a shape or you're that athletic, like in the world of training, everything works. You know what I mean? I could have you run in place like a psychopath for an hour, and you're gonna get in shape. You know what I mean? Like, so the question is it the most optimal method? So I find that now with the modern social media, I constantly have people being like, is this a great workout, or should I be doing this? This person does this. Oh, like, and I've noticed a lot. I don't know if you guys have. I've seen a lot of pro athletes doing some really terrible exercises.
Yeah.
On the, like NFL, on like the Snapchat thing, it's like you see guys doing that are completely breaking like the pillars of functional, you know, sports training. And then like someone might see that and be like, well, Chase Young's doing this exercise. Like, why? How could that be bad? Oh,
Chase Young's a beast. Like what Chase Young does, he could probably deadlift poorly. I don't know, upwards of 400, 500, 600 pounds, I bet. But like, 600. Right, and up, yeah, that's for him getting warmed up, I bet, right? Like, guy's a monster. But like you said, I think wasn't one of Mike Boyle's pointless exercises tire flips?
Yeah, hates tire flips.
He hates them, right? He thinks you're kind of not on a squat, not in a hinge. Your back's rounded. Like, what?
He just says why? Like, what does that have to? Like, what does that only do for you? Like, why is that different than a kettlebell swing? Why is that different than a kettlebell? Like, if you want to get crazy, like a throw, which would be a little bit less of a hinge. Like when people do like those like big kettlebell throws. Like, how is that developing you more power than say a Kaiser, you know, swing or something like that, where you could have like a real ability to develop like against that kind of
What the
resistance.
hell is a Kaiser swing?
It would be like one of the like a hip hinge on the Kaiser, the Kaiser machines. I don't know if you guys have them. It's like a compressing resistance, so it's really
For
good
your
for
legs,
balance.
you could kick back.
No, it'd be just like a cable crossover, but instead of weights, it uses like compressed air, so it's very power driven.
Oh, I think I know it. Yeah, I've
The
seen
harder
them.
you go, yeah, I've only ever seen them at the MBSC, but like they have these different and then I always laugh because you get so many people being like, they don't believe you because like, oh, it's a pro athlete. You're telling me someone's ill-advising one of the best athletes in the world. I'm like, yeah, someone is. Like someone sold him a training package.
You have you have a big population being studied, a big sample size being studied, and then this one person that looks a certain way, that's a pro athlete, does it completely different. Everyone's like, oh, but you're wrong because this one person does it like this. Like, no, he's the anomaly. He's the one that's just like happens to be like that, and that's hard to comprehend for a lot of
people. Someone also once told me, like, I think Tiger Woods has had knee surgery. I don't know how long ago, but like, this is a buddy of mine who was telling me this story. He was also a trainer, and he was saying like he hates the leg extension. He thinks it's and physical therapists will tell you the same thing. They say it's the worst thing for your knee, the amount of stress, the pressure it puts on the kneecap. And lo and behold, Tiger Woods, I think it was 3 weeks after his surgery, one of the first things he was doing was leg extensions. And like, can you argue there's benefits to strengthen the quad under low weights, low loads? I think you can, but I don't think that's an exercise you should do 5x5 power. Like it's a smaller.
Go as fast as you can.
People probably will.
That was like the 80s. Like, you watch videos of guys kicking that thing with like 300 pounds, like
back and forth.
My kneecap just thinking of that.
Yeah, so like I agree with you. Like I think like with specifically the leg press, because that was actually in a lecture I was listening to where it's like not the leg press, the leg extension, but there's a time and a place for it. Like they use it. A lot of people will use it for rehabilitating, but they're using like 20 pounds time under tension because like
it's the load exactly. It's the load and like something I never experienced before. So my most recent recovery was blood flow restriction training. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, tourniquet training.
This is amazing. Like you feel so weak, but it's phenomenal. And I love the fact that like you're replicating that kind of workload with such minimal stress on the body and the joints and the muscles. Really, I think that's a really. But again, it would be that on the leg press, that and banded work, stuff that like you wouldn't do heavy weights on, just stuff that get like certain muscles firing again.
And I think like with all this like kind of being said, as we continue to grow in the fitness industry, I think it's important to kind of understand and respect how slow like research goes, because scientifically we might not see for the next like 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe, we might not see like huge differences in the knowledge that we know and maintain right now. But there might be like one or two things that pop up that will be like complete game changers. And then we'll be like the old men in the gym, like, oh, this doesn't work. Back in my day, nobody used blood flow restriction or nobody used a Normatec, right? And then you start to see like some really good results from it over time. So I guess it's hard. We might be like thinking of it from a young perspective. Like Mike Boyle kind of has that mentality where like if it works, it works scientifically. If it gets discounted, then I'm just going to throw it out and we're not going to use it anymore. And that's probably the mentality that we'll all get if we kind of like are in the industry for that long a period of time, because you'll see a whole bunch of things being used, for, pointless reasons. And some of them for like that look pointless, like actually work, right? Like you see the guys with like the straps on their head or something like that. And they're like doing like the neck training.
I just started doing that. It actually works a lot because of computer posture brings you forward. So I've been banding like reverse balls.
God.
So
you guys seen the exercise?
Yeah.
I saw that.
You're like,
don't give me more TMJ.
All your tissue in your face.
I need to read that study.
Yeah. My girl's brother sent me that, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
I already have TMJ anyway, so it's like if I get that, it's just going to be over for me.
But yeah, Angel, I always think like that's like the Bruce Lee mentality. Like weirdly, not to get like weird, but I always think that fitness is so much like a martial art, and it's like that's what you said about Mike Boyle being 60. Like we're in the industry of like almost like there's a level of fitness that's very much you can only get the knowledge from doing it. And so, like, we're in a industry of mastery, I should say. So, like, the only way to be an expert is to actually live it for like 30 years. Like, if you hands-on put in those like 10,000 hours of training people, you'll actually be at your peak as a trainer when you're, not when we're young and when we look like we're in shape, but when our minds are full of all this information, when we're so trained visually, when we're in our 60s, you'd be, that's when
Be like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, yeah. But I always laugh, man. I get so many people, like, I always think Yoel Romero, like, UFC champion, like, he has a video, he has a sledgehammer in each hand, and he's just terrible, like, shoulder, just smashing a tire. And someone's like, man, I'm like, that's a terrible exercise. Like, dude, don't be a hater. Like, this is a UFC champion of the world. Like, dude, like, what do you think? Like, that his trainers don't know what they're doing? And I'm like, based on that video, yes.
Yeah. That's when someone shows me a video, usually, like, when my girlfriend shows me these videos of someone doing like a kettlebell thing, I'm like, trash, form trash. That's shit squat. And it's not being, I was like, if you're asking my opinion as a professional, he could get more range. He should, or like, for example, this one guy was doing something pretty impressive. And I was like, what's the weight of that bell? Because,
juggling?
Yeah, well, it wasn't juggling, but one of those are the Olympic kettlebells, right? The
competition kettlebell?
Competition kettlebell, right? They're all the same size, whether it's 4 kilos or 4 kilos, right? And this guy was doing all this shit, and I was like, how heavy is this thing? And this thing was like fucking 12 kilos? And I was like, no fucking wonder he's doing this shit, 12 kilos. He was doing fucking snatches and squats and all this shit. And I was like, okay,
like when
he looked good doing it, I'll give you that. But, like, again, if you ask me, it's shit form. Like, there was a few of us talking about LeBron's squat came up conversation. They're like, oh yeah, but then there's sport specific. There's sport specific, then there's not even getting any range of motion, right? Look.
There was no purpose to that squat. I've made this argument with hundreds of people. That squat was terrible.
Once does someone say he's a poor athlete or he gets injured often. We're not discrediting him for that. We're saying that is a shit squat.
The squat was terrible. His trainer should be fired on spot. Like, that's not.
You're done. Yeah, no, but look, like, again, if whether it's LeBron or someone else, whether they have a reason or like the UFC fighter said they had terrible form.
He's a beast. He's just smashing these 2 sledgehammers on a tire over and over again. And he's jacked. He's the most jacked guy ever. He's like 42. Yoel Romero. He's the same age as Tom Brady, and he's yoked. And,
different country, right?
Yeah, and he's just like doing this workout that seems to me like nonsense. Like, yeah, just go crazy. Go get tired. It'd be like someone like, here's 2 hammers. Go.
We try that with some of my clients. Here's 2 hammers. See you in an hour. Let's go.
Yeah. Just start smashing.
Where can we find you online, Brendan?
Online, BrendanKelleyFitness.com. You can also find me at Instagram at Brendan.Kelly.Fitness. And for all personal training inquiries, you can go through my website as well. So, and also I'm on YouTube, even though I only have 1 video. I will say my biggest obstacle is content, because I feel there's I go so back and forth. Like, I want to put out good content, but then like you put out a lot of good content as far as like from a trainer standpoint, and like it does terrible. And then like if I know deep down, like if I grab 2 sledgehammers and start smashing that tire in front of my house, people would think I was a master trainer. They'd be like, this guy knows all the secrets. Like, he's not
and that's what's wrong with the training.
And that's where I'm at a crisis where, like, with content on Instagram and YouTube, maybe you do both, and maybe you do the hammers, and then you're like, now that I've got your attention, swipe right, and you look like a dead or something. Like a big face. Now that you see me doing some horrible swings, look at my plank. Like,
this is my highly rated functional sports training program. Like, swipe right. Like,
that's what you gotta do, man. Like, I saw this post where someone was like posing with less clothing, I'll say, and I was like, now that I have your attention, go to my bio and donate to COVID-19. I was like, wow, that worked really well. That was like,
did you donate?
That'll get people in. Yeah, I was like, that's smart. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it's just it's tough because you see a lot of these oftentimes a lot of the most successful trainers in our industry are not the most, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're not the most educated, but they're selling you like because they could know that what they're doing is wrong, but they're just like, they're selling you like, you know, what it's a numbers game. But I also, like you said, it's like, I can't hate on it because you're moving, you're helping people. If you're doing nothing and then you go from nothing to doing like what I would consider like not the most optimal method, awesome. You know, you're not doing nothing anymore. But at the same time, like I see how easy it is for like, I hate these things when they prey on people's insecurities, like lose 30 pounds in 30 days by drinking only tea. And then you have like all these celebrities marketing that. And I'm like,
hey, that shit.
So bad.
Drives me nuts.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, well, let's wrap it up for today. Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah,
Brendan,
thanks for coming on,
fun.
man. This was
That was a blast,
great,
man. You guys should have me on more often, honestly.
We definitely want to get you on again. So if you think there's a time, or even if you think there's someone that could add to this conversation, if we have you on the same time, definitely let us know. We'd be inclined to that. Because I know you have like a very strong network in the Boston area, or even if it's somewhere else in the country, someone that's you've homegrown and under that kind of industry, we'd love to look at doing that.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, just before we wrap up, if you guys, I was in talks with so the person that mentored me as far as studio, they have 2, they're opening a 3rd, and also they're currently run this thing called the Independent Strength Coach. It's kind of like you do. He's a very successful trainer in Boston, and I'm sure, you know, he'd love to be on your guys' podcast as well. I could try to connect you guys.
Yeah, I mean, whether
him.
it's just him, and I think we'd also be cool with having you both on. That way, like you guys come on and talk to it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm always down. You guys are, you know, it's a blast. It's a great to be able.
Any trainer, let me know. I'll move to Boston. I'm down.
Yeah, I'll hire you in a
field trip. We'll go field trip. You know, film something at Brendan Kelley Studios.
Just no Yankee caps allowed.
All right.
If it comes in, it's got to have no brim.
And for those reasons, I'm out.
Listen.
All right. So plug your website, your Instagram one more time, just for people who might have fast forward, and then any upcoming projects, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. Everybody who's listening, thank you today. Add me on Instagram at brendan.kelley.fitness. Pretty straightforward. My website, brendankelleyfitness.com. As far as what you can expect from me is I'll constantly just put out, you know, content of me trying to show you guys what I believe the right way to move is. And then also I'm always able to answer any question people might have free of charge. So feel free to connect whenever.
Videos, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks,
Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you, guys.